So this didn't necessarily say that these were sightings made by military or government personnel. These are ones that came in from the general public. So during that time frame, you would have had Rendlesham Forest.
Right.
You would have had other situations like that. To me, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see that information coming out. You're going to see, though, let's say John Q. Public, who had a sighting in Birmingham, United Kingdom, describing an event. You'll see his report come out, and most likely what their findings were on that report, and that's pretty much going to be it. I would like to see the ones that, number one, the unknowns in that group.
Right.
The unknowns and the ones which have unusual facts popping up. Something that's maybe not in the norm. Something kind of catches you as unusual.
And you can almost be assured that any of the ones that they've actually released like that, the findings are going to be pretty much, the moonlight was bouncing off of something or something like that.
Exactly. They saw planet Venus.
Right.
There was aircraft in the region. There's a train passing. They saw train lights.
Yeah.
Could be any number of things.
Also, always the wonderful inconclusive.
Exactly. And probably, I'm just curious on how many of them you look at. I found this out when I was doing cases in the United Kingdom. Well, I just went outside to smoke a cigarette. It seemed like half the people in England must have been smoking at that time. Because it was almost like every other case, it seemed like, opened up with, I went outside to smoke a cigarette, or was outside smoking a cigarette when they had to report.
Mm.
But to me, when I say you look for the unusual things, like the things that stand out as unique in that case, that's something I'd be interested in. The things you don't normally see popping up. That either somebody maybe just on their interpretation, maybe have a vivid imagination, or maybe this is something very, very unique and they did see something.
Now, how many amateur astronomers do you run into that have had UFO sightings?
Well, one of the groups I'm with is actually amateur astronomers. And I've had 4 individuals in the group come up and tell me separately about seeing something unusual. And it wasn't necessarily through a telescope, because I have gotten some pictures in from them to look at. One was an object going in front of the moon that they thought, one of the individuals thought it may have been out by the moon, but actually I think it was actually much closer than what the moon was. And it could have been something even like a bird flying in front of the telescope, something along those lines, or maybe aircraft, something that they caught. I couldn't really make it out that well. The ones I'm getting, though, that are the more interesting ones, Barbara, are the ones who weren't using telescopes, that they were just outside, and a lot of them sky watch, and they'll use binoculars and stuff just to see what's going on. These individuals that I was talking to, a number of them laid down like in lawn chairs, recliners. They'd get out binoculars and just look at the sky. The ones I talked to, 3 of the ones reported large black triangular craft. And these triangular craft were just going slowly across the sky. And they described it very similar to one I saw back about 20 years ago. It was just a very large, black, sharp edge defined object, no lights whatsoever on it. And it was just moving slowly across the sky like it didn't have a care.
And no noise.
No noise.
I always thought the black triangles tended to have lights on, unless they're using those only when they're backing up.
I didn't hear any beepers at the same time under it. But you get ones that report them with lights, but also without. And that's why I was doing like a double and triple take when I saw one, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't seeing cloud cover. But it was razor sharp because you could see it against the light, ambient light that was left in the sky at that time. And it was very, very large. These individuals told me the same thing, that what they saw basically was blocking out the stars. They could see distinct edges on it. And they knew it wasn't like cloud cover going over.
Well, now, some of them, like you said, they'll see them with no lights and some with lights. Or if they are alien aircraft, are they trying, if they're trying to be, I guess, inconspicuous to where we aren't supposed to notice them, why would they run around with lights on?
And that's a good question, unless it's some form of propulsion. Something dealing with the propulsion of the object.
Well, those are the ones, the student drivers.
True.
Yeah.
True. Maybe student drivers.
Can you leave the park lights on again?
Yeah. But I think it could go back potentially, maybe propulsion. When you see the lights, though, you're right, though, Henry. When I think of lights, I automatically think of marker lights of aircraft.
Right.
And if something is of this high advanced technology, why would they need, wing lights?
Unless they're trying to detect something on the ground.
Detect something on the ground. Maybe they're from our future, Henry.
Okay.
And they're
so-
carrying the
well-
marker lights over from our future.
Here's my point, is that when you start to look at large observatories, now I know the focus is on deep space right now, but even the ones that are closer views from different telescopes, we're not seeing a lot of UFO reports coming out of the larger observatories. So my question is, are they interdimensional, or that they just simply appear on Earth and don't travel through space?
Well, the telescopes, to me, it's like about a 1 in a billion or more chances of catching something with a telescope, unless it's extremely large. Because you have to think about, when you're looking at the telescope,
Sure.
how small of a narrow vision you've got, and then you've got to be focused in on top of that.
And 360 degrees of space. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why the ones that, tell me about their sightings have done it through binoculars. But on
Because they
some
can
of the...
follow it quick.
Correct. So the thing is you going back to your comment about the dimensional, or they just appear. Well, maybe we don't have the ability to track them coming in from those long distances or wherever they're coming from. We may not have that ability to track them. I mean, when you look at us just tracking right now meteors, asteroids, and things like that, how many of those you see pop up in a newspaper that, oh, by the way, we just had this asteroid come by the Earth. It was 25,000 miles away, and
Right.
it was this big, and we didn't know it was there.
Right.
Would have wiped us out, but hey, there you go.
That's it.
Well, it
So-
does reflect. It does need solar reflectivity for us to probably able to see it, or some sort of heat signature.
Right. So maybe we just can't detect that object. But on the other hand, that's why I'm open for the interdimensional, that maybe they can travel that way. I'm just, because
Sure.
I don't
Well,
think
we
anybody
developed
really
that-
knows.
Yeah, we've developed that maximum black paint. So heaven knows they probably have too.
True.
So you wouldn't have any reflection.
Well, that's it. I mean, you look at the stealth. I mean, we don't really see it. It's not picked up on radar. If they want to be picked up, they turn on their transponders. Otherwise, they basically can't be seen, and that's a 30-year-old aircraft that's
Unless
going
they're
over.
flying over. Unless they're flying over the Super Bowl or something.
True,
Like, hey, look at us.
true, and wiggle their wings back and forth.
Yeah.
Now, how many different species of aliens are they thinking that are out there?
That they've cataloged?
Like a cat,
Yeah.
you've got individuals out there who throw numbers out. And I always love the one that says there's 57 varieties. I love that one.
They're delicious.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
the Heinz
Yeah,
group, yeah.
exactly. The Heinz 57 variety aliens. But you hear, the ones you hear about the most are the grays, tall grays, short grays. You also hear about, in this case, the Palladians. We see ones that are almost like heavenly, like they've got
The Nordics?
the Nordics on there. You've also got insectoids, which probably scare the crap out of me.
That would be the mantis-looking one, right?
The mantis-looking ones. You've also got the reptilians.
Mm-hmm.
There's ones that have been reported as like being almost like a little mini Bigfoot, short and hairy.
You mean like Ewoks? Or?
Ewoks,
Yeah,
yeah.
like Ewoks. I mean, those reports go back, wow, I forget when I heard about the first one of those, back in the 1970s or something.
I guess if they can take on stormtroopers, they're pretty much able to do anything.
Well, I heard about one of those back in like 2008. The witness reported seeing one of those outside her window looking at her.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any true exact number out there, Henry.
Well, or I should say, are some of them, I guess, don't like some of the others? Maybe they even fight amongst each other, you might say?
Well, a lot of archaeological stuff and even the Bible implies that people were looking up and essentially watching Star Wars in the heavens thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and that one of the earlier reports on that too, Jeffrey, was in Nuremberg, Germany, back in like 1561.
Ooh.
There was reports of like a battle in the sky above Nuremberg, and there was another one like in Spain about 1566, where you'll find drawings of it.
Well, my thought on that is if they do war against one another like that, wouldn't there be some evidence somewhere of some of their craft being destroyed or some of them being killed, and we would find some evidence from them?
You would think. I mean, going back to like some of the ones from the 1500s, the reports is based on really kind of like people's description of what they were seeing. The bad thing on that is, here we have today's technology, and we interpret things based on what we know of as of today's technology, of aircraft, other devices out there. Back in the 1500s, what would you really base that on? So on some of those stories, you don't know how exaggerated they are. But then again, they wouldn't have had the technology to search out something necessarily if something went down.
Yeah, they lacked the vocabulary to describe it properly.
Yeah, lack of vocabulary. They wouldn't have had the technologies to know that, okay, if this thing, let's say this light was going across the sky and you see it crash, how far would that have crashed away from where the people are at?
True.
So that would have been much more difficult. But let's say you carry that over to today. What you hear about more today, at least the stuff I'm getting, is you don't hear so much about the battles in the sky. But you have almost like a hierarchy where this race is over this race, this is over this, almost like a hierarchy of the aliens. And with their traits, I guess you could say.
Now, Thomas, where does that type of information come? Does it come from individuals who supposedly have been abducted?
Individuals who have had supposed encounters.
Okay.
That's where it's coming from, that they know that okay, this particular race seemed to be above this. This one seemed to be above that. At least when they were together. Like almost like one was taking orders from the other one.
I mean, like the Travis Walton, where you had the Nordics that seemed to be in charge of the Greys?